So transits are a reflection of the what's in the heavens, and your birth chart is the what's in the heavens at the moment of your birth. Transits reflect the consciousness of the world, and the way that transiting planets aspect our natal chart through geometric relationships that are based on the principles of sacred mathematics, the principles of harmonics. The aspect relationships between transiting planets and natal planets shows the types of events that are taking place in our lives. When a transiting planet forms an aspect to the natal chart point, we see life events playing out. And transits activate the evolutionary potential of the natal chart. What are those soul growth themes for each outer planet transit? The outer planet transits are more significant because they move slower, and so those aspect relationships last a little bit longer. And they tend to signify some of the bigger transitions that are happening in our lives because they last a long time. Pluto transits can last up to 2 years. Saturn transits last up to a year. Uranus transits last a little bit longer than a year. And so we're going through these evolutionary stages and these periods of transition over a period of time. And usually we're experiencing some of the themes that are represented by those outer planets during that whole time period. And so when we master those themes, then we're working with the planetary energies and not fighting against them or pushing against them. So the slower moving the transiting planet and the faster moving the natal planet, the bigger the event. So here are the planets from fast to slow. We start with the moon. The moon moves around the entire zodiac every 28 and a half days, so every month. The sun every year, Mercury and Venus about a year, they kind of stick close to the sun. Mars about every 2 years. Then Jupiter's a little bit longer. So Jupiter's about a year. Saturn is 28 and a half years. Uranus, 84 years. And it's always fun to work with people who are 84 years old because they're going through a Uranus transit. We'll talk about that a little bit tonight. Neptune is 165 years and Pluto is 248 years. So if you can imagine Pluto in an aspect relationship with the moon, that's a big one because the moon is the most intimate part of ourselves. So each outer planet transit has soul growth themes. And I like to think of the planets as our guides and teachers. So each one of these outer planet transits is here to teach us something. And there are different lessons we learn. And I don't like to think about like life in terms of like, we're here to learn certain lessons and I don't take that much of a rigid view about it. I think it helps to give us some context when we're going through these cycles and we're going through these transition points in our lives. If we understand what is the relevant theme, what am I here? How can I find meaning for whatever is playing out in my life? Then I think it gives us a little bit of it can allow us to move through some of the more challenging times of our lives with grace, with ease, making sure that we master the lessons. And I'll also say that it's helpful too, because a lot of times when we go into a transit, a planetary transit, and we know the lessons that we are here to learn and here to master, then being proactive about those, I don't know if we can ever look back and say like, oh, I prevented something bad from happening, but sometimes we can. Because if we're not going to get those lessons, then the planetary teachers and guides are going to do everything they can to make sure that we do get those lessons, that, you know, we don't get out of a transit without having some kind of mastery over what that transit represents. The transiting planet, so the transiting planet aspects a sensitive point in our chart. So those are the inner planets, from the faster moving planets, but also the angles of our chart. Then it informs us of a spectrum of possibilities. So each planet has a range of ways that it can present itself, that it can play out. And so transits offer us, you know, meaning for those, you know, we can see like potentialities. So when people talk about astrology being predictive, one of the things that we're talking about is the cyclical nature of transits. We see repeating themes every time a transiting planet moves in an aspect relationship with a natal point. And you can track it throughout your life because they work like clockwork. And we can also track it in just the way that we see things unfolding in the world.